The Brian Gould Show features content from the internet and current events throughout the world. All photos, videos, names, and other content is for entertainment purposes only. Please don't fall asleep. It's rude.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brian Gould Show. This is my year in review episode. It took me forever to type out this script. Normally I don't go off of a script, I go off of notes, but I actually typed this out. It's a little in depth, but I really hope you enjoy it. And then at the end of this episode, you'll get to say goodbye to some of the famous people that we've lost from this year. So, here we go. Sometimes we are accused, believe it or not, of being overly negative in our annual year in review. Critics say we ignore the many positive events in a given year and focus instead on the stupid, the tragic, the evil, the disgusting, and the Kardashians. Okay, critics, I've heard you. This year, instead of dwelling on the negatives, I'm going to start my annual year in review with a list of top 10 good things that happened in 2015. Ready? Here we go. Number 1, we didn't hear that much about Honey Boo Boo. Number 2, okay, well, I have to get back to you on the good things 2 through 10. I apologize. But 2015 had so many negatives that I'm having trouble seeing the positives. It's like we're on the Titanic and it's tilting at that 85-degree angle with the propellers, turning way up in the air. And we're dangling over the cold Atlantic Ocean telling ourselves, damn it, now the shuffleboard courts are open. Ugh, go figure. Am I saying that 2015 was the worst year ever? Am I saying that it was worse than, for example, 1347, the year when the bubonic plague came out and killed off a large part of humanity? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, because at least the remainder of humanity was not exposed to a solid week in which the news media focused intensively on the question of whether a leading candidate for president of the United States had or had not made an explicit reference to a famous female TV journalist's biological lady cycle. Yeah, that really happened in 2015. And it was not the only bad thing. This was the year when America's sports fans became more excited about their fantasy sports team, which, for the record, I lost my first round of fantasy football to the person that eventually won it. Congratulations, Sandy. This was the year when the selfie epidemic, which is already horrendous, somehow even got worse. Of the 105 billion photographs taken by Americans this year, 104.9 billion consist of stupid grinning faces, blimp-like, in the foreground with a tiny image of something like the Grand Canyon, the Pope, or a 747 crash peeking out in the distance behind the person's left ear. This was the year of the man bun. Stupid. And if all that isn't bad enough, this was the year they tricked us into thinking Glenn got killed on The Walking Dead. By the way, spoiler alert. At this point, you're saying, wait a minute. Surely there was some positive developments in 2015. How about the fact that after so many years of sneering judgmentalism and devise overheated rhetoric, we are actually able to have rational, open-minded conversations about such issues as gun control, gay marriage, race relations, and abortion, so that as a nation we finally began to come together and... No. I did not start drinking this early. Sorry, folks. Let me skip on to the next part here. What we need to do is take one last look back at the hideous reality of 2015, which began as so many ill-fated years have in the past. They start with January, which finds the Midwest gripped by unusual frigid weather, raising fears that the bitter cold could threaten a vast herd of, estimated in the thousands, of Republican presidential hopefuls roaming around Iowa expressing a newly discovered passion for corn. As temperatures lower, some candidates are forced to survive by setting fire to their low-ranking consultants. For most of Americans, however, the cold wave is not the pressing issue. The pressing issue, which we will all be debating over the next several years, is how exactly did the New England Patriots footballs get deflated for the AFC Championship game? the most fascinating theory is been brought up by Patriots head coach Bill Belichick, a man who at his happiest looks like irate rats are gnawing their way out of his colon. He claims that there are actual, and this is actual quotes, this is what he claims, the atmosphere conditions could be responsible for it. And he also claims that he's handled dozens of balls over the past week. In Paris, 2 million people march in solidarity following the horrific terrorist attacks on the French magazines Charlie Hebdo. Eyebrows are raised when not a single top U.S. official attends, but several days later, Secretary of State John Kerry arrives in France with James Taylor, who, this really did happen, performs the song You've Got a Friend. This idiot move strikes fear into the hearts of terrorists who realize that Secretary Kerry is fully capable, if necessary, unleashing Barry Manilow. Meanwhile, in Washington, a drone crashes on the White House's front lawn. Immediately, it becomes the leading contender for the Republican presidential nomination. In sports, the first ever NCAA football playoffs reach a surprising climax when the Oregon Ducks are defeated by in the championship game 42-20 by the New England Patriots. Now you're asking, how is this possible given that the Patriots play in the NFL? Coach Belichick did claim that it could be a result of global climate change. And speaking of surprises, in February, NBC suspended nightly news anchor Brian Williams after an investigation reveals inaccuracies in his account of being in a military helicopter under fire in Iraq. Mr. Williams did not actually come under fire, states the network. Also, technically, he wasn't in a helicopter in Iraq. It was a Volvo station wagon on the New Jersey Turnpike. But there was a lot of traffic. A confused Williams blames the lapse on post-traumatic stress disorder resulting from killing Osama bin Laden. Greece, under intense pressure to meet the debt obligation, gives Germany 2 of its 3 remaining goats. In weather news, Boston's public schools are closed because of glaciers. In the year's biggest literary story, representatives of 88-year-old Harper Lee, denying allegations that they're seeking to cash in on the beloved author's literary fame, announces plans to publish what they claim is her recently discovered second book, 50 Shades of a Mockingbird. In the Academy Awards, the Oscar for Best Picture goes to Birdman, accepting the coveted title and little statue. The director tells the audience that, like you, I never actually saw the movie. Good old Spock is beamed up for the last time. In business news, troubled retailer Radio Shack files for bankruptcy, citing the fact that the past 6 years, the chain's 4,000 stores have made a nationwide total of 1 sale, that being a home email server purchased by Hillary Clinton. In sports, the New England Patriots defeat the Seattle Seahawks 28-24 to win a Super Bowl marked by surprises, including the one play in which the Patriots, undetected by game officials, had a grenade launcher on the field, an infraction that Coach Belichick later blames on wind shear. The most surprising play comes at the end of the game when the Seahawks, on 2nd and goal with 26 seconds left, and Marshawn Lynch, who basically is a UPS truck only harder to tackle, in the backfield elect to throw a pass which is intercepted. After the game, Seattle coach Pete Carroll defends his decision. He is immediately hired as a strategic consultant by Jeb Bush for his campaign. As February draws to a close, 5,000 ISIS troops land in Mexico and march north. They're only able to reach Cleveland unnoticed because the entire United States population is heatedly arguing over the color of a picture of a dress on the internet. As we trickle into March, March starts off over the strong objections of the Obama administration. The Israeli Prime Minister addresses a joint meeting of Congress. He immediately becomes a leading contender for the Republican presidential nomination, 4 points ahead of the drone. Russian President Vladimir Putin mysteriously vanishes from public for 10 days and is later revealed that he was actually training customer service representatives for Comcast. In finance news, shares of European financial market shares on the European financial markets fall when German authorities announced that one of the Greek goats is actually a genetically modified squirrel. Imagine that. Speaking of unnatural, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approves the sale of genetically modified potatoes and apples, noting that they offer many nutritional benefits and are completely safe, provided that customers do not anger them. And a harsh reminder that the winter is not over, Boston Mayor Martin Walsh is eaten by a polar bear. Tensions mount on the Korean peninsula when North Korea, in an unprecedented cyber attack, post an estimated 23 million negative Yelp reviews of South Korea, including several million containing the phrase, "We ordered the dog," which arrived so undercooked that the tail was still wagging. Speaking of tension, in April, there is troubling news from Baltimore where the death of an African-American man in police custody touches off a conversation on race that lasts several days, resulting in 250 arrests and extensive property damage. Reverend Al Sharpton rushes to the scene but is unable to prevent things from eventually calming down. In another alarming development, Washington, D.C. is hit by a power outage, meaning that for several hours the rest of the nation is forced to form its own policies. A week later, Washington is again shaken when a Florida mailman, making a powerful statement for an or against something, don't know which, lands his helicopter on the lawn of the Capitol building. He immediately becomes the front runner for the Republican presidential nomination. Elsewhere, on the political front, Hillary Clinton declares her candidacy for president and sets out to demonstrate that she is a regular human by riding into Iowa in a custom van driven by Secret Service agents. In Ohio, she stops at the Chipotle for a takeout, a news event that produces spasms of political journalism. The New York Times breaks the story reporting that Clinton wore sunglasses and ordered a chicken burrito bowl. Bloomberg gets a follow-up scoop reporting that Clinton's party, her bill was only $20 and some change, but Clinton did not leave a tip. Unfortunately, another newspaper runs a 1,200-word story headlined, "The Everyday Peoples Who Made Hillary Clinton's Burrito Bowl." I can't believe I'm reading this out loud, yes. Incredibly, nobody thinks to do a profile of the chicken, unfortunately. In other journalism news, Rolling Stone apologized for discrediting a story about an alleged rape at a college fraternity and announces that it has disciplined its lead fact-checker, Brian Williams. Responding with drastic measures to California's worsening drought, Governor Jerry Brown announces the creation of a state saliva conservation board. In sports, NCAA men's basketball tournament is won by the New England Patriots, who defeat the University of Wisconsin 2-0 in a game featuring a basketball inflated to basically the same pressure as a roadkill squirrel. Speaking of sports scandals, in May, international soccer is rocked by allegations that bribery were involved in awarding the 2022 World Cup to Qatar, a nation with little soccer tradition, as evidenced by the fact that the 12 stadiums that is built for the tournament all feature large decorative fountains in the middle of the playing field. But the big story is the long-awaited, and I'm talking decades, boxing match between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao for the undisputed world title and the older guys basically standing around division. Mayweather wins the fight and takes home $220 million, which works out to a little over $70 million per punch actually landed. Then he celebrates by attempting to wake up his entourage. Elsewhere in sports, the Kentucky Derby is won by the New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady, riding tight end Rob Gronkowski. All the actual horses in the race mysteriously collapse at the starting line from what Coach Bill Belichick speculates could be allergies. Brady also wins the Indianapolis 500 driving a U.S. Army tank that averages only 30 miles per hour, but proves to be extremely difficult for the other vehicles to pass. Also, there is big excitement in England where the Prince and his wife Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, produce another royal baby who, in a sign of the changing times, is christening Prince Brooklyn Dakota. She joins the line of royals destined to spend their lives gamingly trying to appear interested in the endless series of building dedications. In Texas, 2 men are arrested. Actually, I apologize. In Texas, 2 men are gunned down by police. They couldn't arrest them, of course. Gunned down by police after they opened fire on a security guard outside an exhibit of Muhammad cartoons, highlighting the need for a national conservation. Pause. I won't finish that one. Anyways, James Taylor's unavailable, so federal authorities dispatch the captain, and they were unable to prove that anything happened. That was an unfortunate event there. As California's drought continues to worsen, Governor Brown announces a controversial relief plan involving Lake Superior and a 17 million foot horse. In a disturbing development, a Seattle convenience store is robbed at gunpoint by what police identify from the surveillance video as a genetically modified potato. Whoa, where'd that come from? In June, the Federal Office of Personal Management announces that hackers have gained access to personal records of millions of current and former government employees. An OPM statement downplays the seriousness of the data breach, stressing that if anybody publishes any photos allegedly depicting an alleged cabinet secretary with an alleged goat, those are fake, further noting that it was totally a consenting goat. In another disturbing federal story, a report on an undercover investigation into airport security reveals that Transportation Security Administration's screeners failed to detect banned items including weapons and explosives 67 out of 70 times. Responding to the report, TSA officials state, "What report? We don't see any report." In a historic decision on gay rights, the nation's highest legal authority, Kim Davis, clerk of Rowan County, Kentucky, overturns the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling that the state laws banning same-sex marriage are unconstitutional. Meanwhile, in what is widely held as a brave, courageous display of bravery and courage, a 65-year-old woman allows herself to be pictured on the cover of Vanity Fair wearing only a corset. In other gender news, the Treasury Department asks for input from the public on which woman will be depicted on the redesigned $10 bill. The immediate frontrunners are Mary Ann, Ginger, Taylor Swift, and the 2 sisters from Frozen, Elsa and Anna. On the political front, the big story is Donald Trump, who declares his candidacy for president. As he lays out a bold, fair, and far-reaching vision for America, consisting of whatever thought is going through his mind at that particular moment, Trump is deemed to have no chance by veteran Washington-based political experts with a vast knowledge of what all other veteran Washington-based political experts think. Also declaring his candidacy and predicted by experts to do far better is Jeb Bush, whose official campaign slogan is Jeb! And I'm assuming the exclamation mark denotes enthusiasm. Moving on into July, the New Horizons interplanetary probe, having traveled more than 3 billion miles over nearly 10 years, finally reaches Pluto and transmits back data proving conclusively a discovery that sends shock waves a bladder malfunctions throughout the astronomy community that Pluto consists of both ice and rocks. Poof. The nation reacts with horror to the news that a Minnesota dentist has killed Cecil, the world's suddenly most beloved lion. The dentist instantly becomes a less than popular version of Hitler and goes into hiding to escape animal rights activists threatening to give him a root canal with a chainsaw. This story totally dominates the news for the better part of a week, which we eventually look back upon as an innocent time. Hackers announced that they have broken into the Ashley Madison website and obtained personal data on millions of clients allegedly seeking to have affairs. A statistical analysis will later reveal that of the 37 million accounts hacked, only 23 belong to women, and 21 of those 23 were actually Ashley Madison employees posing as clients. The remaining 2 belong to Miley Cyrus. Elsewhere on the tech front, Microsoft reveals Windows 10, which is widely hailed as a breakthrough, and it actually turned out to be Windows 8 being able to be turned back into Windows 7. Weird. In other finance news, the International Monetary Fund sends a collection agent to Athens, only to discover that the Greek government has moved out of Greece without leaving a forward address. Speaking of missing, in Mexico, the infamous drug lord El Capo, literally the Cap, escapes from a quote-unquote maximum security prison via an elaborate tunnel that somehow was dug to his cell without anybody noticing. Equally alarming is the fact that the other end of the tunnel turns out to come here in Florida to be in Miami exact. Weird. But the big international news comes from Vienna, where Iran signs a deal with the United States and 5 other nations under which Iran, in exchange for a lot of money, promises to stop trying to build a nuclear bomb. President Obama says that the deal makes our country and the world safer and more secure. For his part, Iran's supreme leader says, quote, "Death to America." But he says it in what the U.S. negotiators describe as a softer tone. In sports, the U.S. wins the Women's World Cup, defeating Japan 5-2, with 3 of the goals being scored by Tom Brady, which he is wearing a sports bra. Moving into August, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administrative reports that July was just the hottest month globally ever recorded. With a renewed sense of urgency, the world's industrialist nations vow to continue to send large delegations via jumbo jets to distant conferences on climate change until this darned thing has been kicked. In politics, the Republicans hold their first presidential debate featuring approximately 75 candidates ranging outward in popularity from Donald Trump at center to miscellaneous people and the late Warren G. Harding out on the far edges. Jeb Bush has an off night, failing to realize what's going on as he falls asleep several times during his own answers. Ben Carson does better except for when he identifies the North Korean capital as a kind of lobster. Trump dominates the event and the evening, at one point ordering everybody to shut up while he takes a call on stage from Beyonce. Savvy Washington-based political insiders agree, after conferring with other savvy Washington-based political insiders, that Trump's unorthodox behavior will alienate voters and he will be out of the race by this fall. In financial news, the stock market unexpectedly plunges more than 1,000 points. Small investors are urged not to panic by financial experts who A, did not predict the plunge, B, cannot explain why it happened, C, have no earthly idea when it'll happen next, and D. Have their own money invested in collectible refrigerator magnets. Abroad, the German parliament votes to give yet another financial bailout to Greece. Now I'm slowing this down a little bit because some of these notes here, this script, got a little jumbled. I apologize. But the financial bailout to Greece, in return for which Greece agrees not to publish photographs of Angela Merkel naked. September. We are almost through this, guys. Pushing through. September. Excited Apple fans line up to purchase the new iPhone 6, which is identical to the iPhone 6. Oh, the new one's got an S. There's the difference. And it also has a special alarm that will alert Apple fans exactly when to line up and purchase the next new iPhone, due out approximately 3 months later. In business news, the Environmental Protection Agency accuses Volkswagen of cheating on emissions testing, stating an international scandal that ultimately forces Volkswagen big wig to resign and take a job as equipment manager for the New England Patriots. October. Hillary Clinton testifies for 127 straight hours before the House Committee on Investigating Benghazi until the Earth crashes into the sun. There are many, many, many testy exchanges between Clinton and Republican congressmen, but at the end, the American public has a much clearer picture of the extremely high level of mutual loathing that makes our government work the way it does. After much agonizing, Vice President Joe Biden announces that he will not run for president, stressing that the decision had nothing to do with the severed horse head wearing a Hillary button he found in his bed, which Biden says he believes was meant as a supportive tool. In sports, FIFA, the scandal-plagued governing body of international soccer, suspends its president, Sepp Blatter. Among those seeking to replace him is the South African businessman, and I am not making this up, Tokyo Sex Whale. November, the world reels in shock after horrific terrorist attack in Paris, with rumors of new threats coming daily. The U.S. State Department briefly considers unleashing Neil Diamond and Barbra Streisand, codenamed Doomsday Duet, to saying "You don't bring me flowers," but elects instead to issue a worldwide travel alert, warning American citizens to avoid potentially dangerous areas, especially the northern and southern hemisphere. The department assures Americans that there is no need to panic, stressing that they should remain in bed paralyzed by butt-puckering fear. Also deeply offended in November are people who have taken time out of their busy lives to notice that 2015 Starbucks Holiday Cup is just plain red. Trigger warning. Does not have snowflakes or reindeer on it. This is yet another way in the war on Christmas, which has completely eliminated Christmas from our lives, except for Christmas carols, playing on loudspeakers everywhere, and huge Christmas displays in every store, and Christmas movies on TV constantly, numerous Christmas-related news stories, and endless stream of Christmas-themed commercials running 24/7 since approximately Labor Day. Jeb Bush seeks to revive his flagging campaign by unleashing an awesome new slogan, "Jeb, we can fix it," and immediately surges ahead in the coveted 3-year-old boy voter demographic. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton continues to execute spontaneous acts such as smiling while campaigning on the theme that she is both a human being and a woman who cares about other humans in the middle class and women specifically. In a major sports upset, the seemingly invincible Ronda Rousey is defeated in a UFC title fight by Tom Brady, who uses a maneuver called the crowbar, although Coach Belichick is quick to point out, in fact, that it is just a regular claw hammer. In the World Series, the Kansas City Royals defeat the New York Mets. The payrolls of these two teams combined are less than the payroll of the New York Yankees, who were eliminated immediately from the playoffs in the wild card game by the Houston Astros, whose payroll is less than a third of the Yankees. As the month draws to a close, tensions in the Middle East run high amid rumors that the Obama administration, in what would be a major escalation of America presence, is considering staging a Black Friday sale in Syria. Fortunately, these rumors prove to be false, and the worst retail violence is confined within American borders. As we close out the year in December, with the menacing specter of global climate change looming like some kind of spectral menace or something, 150 world leaders finally getting serious about this urgent threat to the planet's future decide to stay home and confer via Skype. Okay, seriously, the leaders all fly to Paris, where they and their security detail and their vast minion entourages travel around in high-speed motorcade to attend dinners and make speeches about the importance of figuring out how to reduce these pesky carbon emissions. In the end, they sign a historic agreement under which all parties commit to a concrete, legally binding, and unbreakable schedule of potentially attending additional conferences at some point in the future, although skeptics note that Chinese President Xi Jinping signs his name on the official document as Phil McCracken. In another feel-good story, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg announces that he will give back the $145 billion that average Americans waste on Facebook yearly. On a more disturbing note, the Food and Drug Administration confirms reports that genetically modified fruits and vegetables have been escaping from supermarkets and mating in the wild with other species. The FDA stresses that this is a manageable problem and downplays sightings in Florida of a so-called potatotor, half potato and half alligator, which according to terrified locals lurking underground has a huge jaw and dozens of eyes and can only be stopped by bullets tipped with sour cream. Speaking of potatoes, tensions rise in Europe when the Russian government announces that it is launching a new business startup called Tuber, described to be like Uber, but except with tanks. In presidential politics, Trump, and more Trump. But with the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary just around the corner, analysts struggle to make sense of new polls showing that suddenly the clear leader in both states for both parties is none other than Tom Brady. Scary part is that actually wouldn't be so bad. As the year finally staggers to a close, everybody, Americans set aside their differences, if only briefly, and join together in this cherished, time-honored tradition of pretending that New Year's Eve is fun. So let's raise our glasses to a toast to the demise of 2015, and then let's set those glasses back down untasted, in case, God forbid, it contains gluten in it. Then we could probably all just go to bed. There you have it, folks. It was extremely long, tongue-twisting, took me forever to put it together, but that is my year in review. Thank you for listening. Now, take a peek at your screens. Here are the unfortunate losses of 2015. Hope you found some humor in my sarcasm. I hate to send you out on a sad note, but I did put this together. Did not get a chance to add in a couple of faces that did pass away here recently. The lead singer of Motorhead. But here are some of the more memorable ones. I was not able to get everybody, so if you see one that I missed, I apologize. But here you go. Thank you for listening, and happy frickin' New Year.